Welcome back to Hytale Lore, where we dive into different facets of the game and try to parse apart its secrets. Today, we are talking about Ancient Scaraks. This was decided in a poll here on the second channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, they go up every Wednesday at the same time that a new video releases. So if you want to say in what we talk about next week, go ahead and run over to the poll as soon as it's live. So I do have the game open. We are going to jump into it shortly, but there's a few things that I want to cover that are not currently in the actual game. They've not come to it yet. Maybe they're still being developed. Maybe they're being changed, but we're going to explore them in our good old Google Slides and a Dream, which, if you did not know, is how we started these videos before the game had come out. The Scaraks are these insectoid creatures that live in Zone 2 of Orbis. I want to briefly bring back this whole iconography set here because there is some really relevant stuff here. First of all, Sand Empress Rune. This is something that we're going to see a lot that seems to have a great deal to do with the Scaraks. It's got the 6 legs like the Scaraks do. Seems like an archaic representation of a Scarak itself. And then, of course, we have the elemental symbols. So wind is the one that is associated with Zone 2. We've talked about this before, how every one of these elements applies to a specific zone in the game, right? Like Zone 1 is Earth and so on and so forth. Zone 2 is wind. And we are going to see the symbol a lot, and we'll dive into a little bit more of it as we actually enter the game itself, but it does have a lot to do with the Farens. These are these anthropomorphized fennec fox people that live alongside the Scaraks in Zone 2. My understanding is that the lore, the story for this, is under some level of review and isn't firmly set in stone, but the lore that we've been presented with so far for the Farens is that they were enslaved by the Scaraks and basically built these big ziggurats under the Scaraks' control. They have since broken away from them, or at least most of them have, and they now wear these freedom bracers that have the symbol for the element of wind inscribed upon it, taken directly from one of the braids of Gaia that they have in their own Forgotten Temple entrances in Zone 2. We do see these bracers on the Farens in the game. Scaraks themselves, we have all of these models in the game we can actually take a look at, right? But there are old models and new models for the Scaraks. What we have in the game are the old models developed under the Hytale team before it was acquired by Riot. Then there are the new models. We move past all of those, we get to these guys right here. These ones were designed under the premise of making the Scaraks a little bit more alien, which has led to the theory that some people have held that the Scaraks are from another planet in the Alterverse, which is the idea that basically Orbis is one planet amidst many that eventually the players will be able to go and visit. That's a crazy looking one, the one coming out of the wall there. I would love to see that in the game eventually. These will, as far as we've been told, be coming to the game eventually. They're not here yet, but they will be. And there has been some speculation over the idea that maybe these are the Ancient Scaraks and the ones we have currently are the new Scaraks. Thank you very much for the follow. I want you to keep the image of these Scaraks in mind because we are going to be talking about them in the game. We just obviously don't have them in the game to talk about. Now, this is concept art about the Scaraks and the places that they live and the culture that they have that was released a good long while ago. It's worth the reminder once again that all of this concept art is just a concept. We don't know how much of it will change. We don't know what parts will remain or what will end up in the game. This displays the Scaraks' ziggurats. Some elements of these we can find in the world already, like this symbol, which looks very much like the Sand Empress, but there's some really interesting text that we get here too, right? So this one reads, "You can see the light of the crystal glowing from the inside. The horns are reminiscent of antennas, and the rift on the front side looks like insect legs. There are 4 watchtowers around the main building, now ruined. There is an underground tunnel leading to Scarak cave networks." Also really important here that this is referenced as being ruined, because that's also something that we get a reference to in the actual current game. Now, down here we get the Sand Palace, which says, "Watchtowers. Inspired by their ancient wild hives, these heavily armored towers are much more decorated. The hole on the front allows Scaraks to climb inside and shoot at upcoming opponents. And then it says, underground, a big magic gate leads to the instance where the Sand Empress is imprisoned. All really, really fascinating stuff here. And when it says instance, that's referring basically to a dungeon entrance. So we have, like, for example, the things that you find in the game that right now have a work in progress sign on the other side of them. Those are instances. They're just waiting to be completed, right? And then, of course, we have the prison entrance as well that perhaps Pharans were held under at some point in time. And then we have the crystal room beneath this giant ziggurat. So a couple things here to remember as we head into the game. One, we get these big structures that are described now as being ruined. Two, we get the Sand Empress being imprisoned, and we have a reference to their ancient wild hives and a crystal. We do also have this beautiful concept art of what looks like a newer design for a Scarrak hive, and it looks much more alien than the ones that we currently get in the game, with these little glowing blue lights and these tubes that are connecting everything here. The other thing to reference that we don't really get to see super clearly in what I've set up in the game so far is just the fact that, let me move my face a little bit again, the Scarrak hives in the game are surrounded by hive soil, this ruined landscape, and often these gigantic skeletons as well. I'm going to move my face once again. I'm going to get rid of this window, and we are going to jump into all of this in the game. I have arranged a few Scarrak items for us here, and we have the Scaraks themselves that are sprinting. This is a bug in the game that was not supposed to be a pun, but it kind of came out like one, where when you leave their render distance and you've loaded in these models, they become a track star. They're a runner, they're a track star. But we have the brood mother over here who births the Scaraks, and then we have all of these other varieties that if you have played the game, you should be pretty familiar with by now. From the little babies all the way up into the various different types of Scaraks they grow into. Very ant-like in that regard, where it seems like they just kind of fill in the roles that are needed in the hive. So I do have a little bit of overlap here between these two different cultures that are occupying Zone 2, where we have, I know the Pharans are standing here, not because they're involved in this, okay? These are ancient human remnants. These are ancient Scarrak remnants. I threw in the gold because it really seems like it has to belong to the Scarrak, so many of their ancient accoutrements, which inside the game are called primordial, are made out of gold. And then they have this symbol here. So this symbol and these symbols here definitely look reminiscent of that Sand Empress rune that is associated with the Scaraks. Now, we have a few chests here full of things. The other thing that I just wanted to point out, we'll return to this a little bit later too, is that the chests definitely look living. Do you see this? It's giving Stranger Things. I don't like it. It makes me feel really gross. It makes me feel really gross. Inside of this, oh, the sound is horrible. Oh, it's awful. Anyways, we have this this statue. So we have a hole way over there in the world, in our lore archives world. We have all of the statues of the various gods in Hytale all lined up because they confirmed in a lore blog post not all of the factions in this world actually worship Gaia. So we have a couple distinct gods here that are worshipped in Zone 2. This one right here is a legendary beast that seems to have been held by the humans who have left over these wind temple elements. And here you can see symbols of Gaia. So I'm going to try to get this guy to stop running. Can I grab you? Thank you. Let's unfreeze you. There you go. Now that he is calm and still, can you see on his arms the freedom bracers that have the wind sigil on them? We can see that sigil echoed here on the Wind Temple chests and here on the Wind Temple door. So clearly these people had something to do with Gaia. They even have that light blue crystal that is associated with Gaia's power in Zone 2. The Scaraks seemed to be devoid of that. They don't have any of those iconographies that are associated with Gaia's elements, but they do have this statue that is supposedly left in some of their ruins. It has a tooltip that reads as follows. Statue of the Founding Builder. Long since forgotten by the fallen Scaraks, some few statues of the Founding Builder still stand in their oldest ruins. The few explorers who have since stumbled upon them speak only of an emanating sense of disappointment and disapproval, as if the stone itself was stained by its silent witness of the atrocities committed under the first and last Scarak Empress. So there's a few really fascinating things here, right? We have the Founding Builder that seems to be some sort of initial deity for the Scaraks. One thing that pops into my mind is that potentially, especially with the word builder in here, this could be another avatar, right? So Gaia is supposed to be an avatar, like the players are an avatar with the ability to build in the world and to sculpt the world with our magic powers, right? This could be another force similar to that. Or maybe this is a force from some other planet in the Alterverse that came through with the Scaraks when they arrived in Orbis. Whatever the case, under this Founding Builder seems to have been a Scarak Empress. We saw in the concept art that the Scarak Empress is now imprisoned. There is an instance beneath this big temple where the Sand Empress is imprisoned. And she left over that sigil that they use, the iconography that they use to represent her. And so it seems like the Scaraks had this initial onset that might have been positive, and then under that Empress, everything fell apart. It specifically references atrocities committed under this Empress, which would fall very well in line with the Scaraks enslaving the race of Farrens and making them do all of this building for them. So, we have this Founding Builder, a sort of deity for the primordial Scaraks. Then we have all of these, which I was honestly just fascinated with by the sole fact that these are 100% made out of organic material. There's no other way around it. These are eggs that they use to illuminate. It's larva. That's what it's called, right? Glowing Scarak larva that they use in their lamps here. Same thing here. Which is kind of nasty. The Scaraks make me feel gross, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. They use them here too. There's another glowing Scarak larva, just a different color, and they use it in this lamp as well. They're all alive. I don't like it. It makes me unhappy. I also do, this is a very small detail, but I do like how the ladders look set up to accommodate bug legs instead of human legs or anthropomorphized animal legs. Now, back to this iconography of the Founding Builder, we do have these doors. This looks very much, very, very similar to the shape of that Founding Builder or to the Sand Empress. They seem to have used all over the place in their home. And then lastly, over here, corrupted hive soil. So we both see corrupted hive soil and this poison dirt, both with this very purplish color. And this does make me wonder if part of the downfall of the Scaraks is very similar to some other factions in the game, like the Outlanders, where maybe they fell prey to Varen's influence, even if they don't know who he is, because it is not uncommon to find these blocks in and around the Scarak hives. We will see it here today as we begin to take a look through the buildings, which we have spawned in here to have a little look through. Let's take these one at a time. Here is a little hive entrance here. Here you can see the normal hive soil. That's what it looks like right there. And this right here is a proper Scarak hive that you can find in the world. And as you descend down into it, lo and behold, you get these poisoned roots. All very Varen coded. I'm going to get out of here because I actually hate the egg squishing noises. Not actually found this in the world. Supposedly they do generate though with the broodmother here. Not only do you find all of these little Varen blocks, but you also find these purple crystals that seem to be very solidly associated with them, as we can see in the Outlanders' own camps where we use this to illuminate their own void water. Here present in the place where the Scaraks are now born, which does seem to fall in line with the fact that maybe they are falling prey to some degree to Varen's influence. And then we have a few other little egg rooms down here. I hate them. I don't like squishy sounds. It actually really deeply bothers me when I hear somebody chewing, and this is that sound exactly. And this is torture. This is pain. It sounds like one of them died. Good. They deserve it. Here you can see more of the Varen crystals. Again, at the place where the Scaraks are being born. And then we see This little mound right here, this is completely corrupted hive soil, and down below, glowing Scarak larvae that are accompanied by these earth crystals. I genuinely do not... What are they all trooping around for? Where are you going? I don't know what this is about. I would love to hear anybody's idea on what is going on in this particular situation right here. Corrupted hive soil with earth crystals and Scarak larvae. I don't know. I don't know what the goal is here. These structures here were just little tests for myself to see how the Scarak architecture in the concept art compared to the human architecture left over in Zone 2. It's not very similar. But what is very similar, this looks like the ruins of an old Scarak temple, maybe the closest we actually get to it in the game. These are where the Pharans live. These are the largest encampments that I've ever found for Pharans in the game so far. And they live alongside these big old bones that have been left over, very similar to the bones that we see outside of Scarak hives. And we see this Sand Empress symbol right here that the Pharans seemingly have moved into, which does lead me to the idea that clearly these primordial ancient Scaraks were a lot more developed than the Scaraks that we actually see currently in the game, right? They had these ziggurats, they have even crystals in their homes, very similar to other creatures in Orbis do in their worship of Gaia, and it seems like they ditched all of that. It seems like there's a common theme throughout the entire game that a lot of these civilizations had a lot of hubris, right? A lot of belief in themselves and maybe not in the natural world around them that led to their downfall. Seems like the Scaraks were not exempt for that, as they had one empress who seemed to lead the enslavement of an entire other people and then be imprisoned beneath one of their temples still to this day. That would be a very cool thing to get to uncover eventually in this game as a player, but this seems to be the closest remnant of that actual civilization that we have left behind, and now the very people that they enslaved have moved into it and made it their own. Now, I have looked beneath these things. There is no secret temple-y elements here. There's nothing else that you can find. There's no secrets, no statues, no hidden lore in these. However, it does seem to hint at things to come, and eventually, hopefully, we will be able to properly explore those Scarak ziggurats left over and maybe partially buried in the sands due to time from the fallen Scaraks long ago when they had their first and last Empress. Now all we get are these nasty little bugs that live amidst poisoned and corrupted soil and the bones of long dead creatures. The last very interesting thing that I would like to mention here, that is something I've really not quite figured out, but I would love to hear people's ideas on. This right here is a wind crystal in the game. These light blue crystals are associated with the element wind, right? We can see it in the mouth of the big old snake here. We can see it in the statue, the doors over here. You also see the same exact color in the Scarak's eyes, even in the concept art of that big old alien version of their ziggurat that they have. You can see it here. Which does seem like there's still an association with Gaia and her power and her presence in this part of the world, as that is her color in Zone 2, that pale blue. The other place that we see it, though, there's one other place, I believe, in Zone 2 this occurs. Let me see if I can find this here. So these guys are wearing some sort of mask that looks like it has blue crystal in it. This is a little bit of a deeper blue, but it is still definitely blue crystal. They have their freedom bracers, and these are called Pharan burrowers. As far as I can tell, they're the only Pharans that have this pale coloring to them, which makes sense if they're a burrower that they would live underground and maybe be a little bit paler as a result. And I wonder if there isn't some element here of them digging through the ruins of the people who used to live around them, like in the human wind temples and in the ancient Scarak homes, and taking out pieces of those that they can then use in their own homes and buildings, as the people who lived there and died there are no longer using it. Obviously, they don't have any sort of NPC pathing or interaction in the game like that, but I would love to see something like that develop eventually. If you think I missed anything, please let me know, and if you enjoyed this, we do have a Discord. I also do have a main channel where some builds go, and of course, if you're watching this on Twitch, there is the YouTube channel where these go up later. How dare you soggy me. I will see you next time. Happy hightailing.